Hey, friends, and welcome into the Heat Press for Profit podcast powered by Stalls. Thank you for tuning in. This is episode 98. Can you believe it? We are 2 away from hitting 100. We're going to have a very special celebration right here, wherever you're listening to us. Or if you're listening to the replay on wherever you get your podcasts, we're always available. But I am pretty stoked for today's episode. Now, if you missed last week, Jenna had a great episode with Michael Snyder about some elevated apparel and how decorators, brands, and small businesses could be a lot more intentional with apparel choices that cut through the noise of the decorated apparel industry or custom clothing, however you want to spin it, and really connect with the audience. So some really great strategies last week. I know I had to listen back to it as I was out at the DTF Expo in Mesa, Arizona last week, but do appreciate Jenna, and that was a fantastic conversation. So if you haven't checked that episode out from last week, go back wherever you listen to your podcasts, or just click the live tab over on the Stalls TV YouTube channel, and you will be able to find that episode. But talking about the DTF Expo, it is what we are talking about here today, right? So we're going to be covering a lot of what the decorators that we talk to, the businesses out there in Mesa, Arizona at the DTF Expo, we're talking about, what they're excited about, what's changing in the world of direct-to-film, and how decorators are really, truly finding success utilizing direct-to-film in their business. But of course, before we get too in-depth and get started here, at Stalls, we always aim for these podcasts and all of our educational content, whether it be the Transfer Express channel, our TikTok pages, or that Stalls TV YouTube channel, to truly help decorators learn, inspire them, and we always want to connect and help you reach your own success. Our goal is to make you a confident and capable apparel decorator, just absolutely crushing your goals. So anything we could do here to help support that, just let us know. We're always in your corner. And if you are not already a member, be sure to join the community over at the Heat Press for Profit Facebook page over on Facebook. I almost said YouTube there for a second. Make sure you join that community over on Facebook, filled with thousands of decorators just like you. It is a private group, so any pricing questions or decoration questions that you may have, go ahead and just leave them right there. You're going to get answered by decorators just like you in a great community, right? So we do have some upcoming in-person education. I love our online education and connecting virtually, but the only thing I love better is going to shows just like the DTF Expo. We've got some coming up here, the Decorated Apparel Expo in Nashville. That's May 9th through 10th. I know I'm headed down for that one. I love the Music City and can't wait to get back down there in just about a month here. That's May 9th and 10th. Decorated Apparel Expo in Chicago is the end of May there. Then, of course, Graphics Pro Expo in Indy, which is always a great show. I believe it's even with the RapsCon again this year. That's June 19th through the 21st. DAX Minneapolis is in August, and then we're going to be looking at the Graphics Pro Expo out in Long Beach in August, and then into the fall where the next Impressions Expo is going to be. I was just out in Atlantic City a couple weeks ago and had a great time talking with decorators out there, seeing the latest and greatest, and that Fort Worth show is always my favorite. Moved over to Dallas this year. So same area, but we're very excited for that one. And then, of course, Printing United down in Orlando in October, too. I know we're all looking for just one of the biggest shows in the printing industry and love the folks over there at Printing United Alliance and what they're doing for our industry, truly to help decorators succeed, too. So I'm all behind that, right? So today, I am very, very excited to welcome Frank Good here onto the podcast. He's one of the most knowledgeable people I know when it comes to DTF. So talking about the DTF Expo today and talking about direct-to-film, had to bring Frank on. And he really, truly understands, and in our commercial sales division here at Stalls, really understands how decorators and businesses of all sizes could really take advantage of direct-to-film for their own success. So, Frank, welcome on to the podcast here today. We're so happy to have you. And maybe I gave you a little bit of an introduction, but if you want to introduce yourself more to some of the guests here who are joining us who may not know you right yet. I know a lot of folks in the industry do know you.
Yeah, like Dave said, my name is Frank Good. Dave, I'm glad to be here and join you today. We had an incredible time last week in Phoenix, Arizona, or Mesa, Arizona. It's almost as hot here. I'm in Houston, Texas, 82 degrees. But we are a humid climate where Phoenix is all dry. I've been in the apparel industry for going on 22 years now. I had my own screen print and embroidery sign shop for many years. I exited that and joined Stalls. That was quite a few years ago. I always joke that I left Stalls for about 5 years and did a little R&D on the apparel side. Worked for a little company you might have heard of called S&S Activewear that recently acquired Alpha Broder. And then, I just felt compelled, maybe sold. There's some great salespeople at Stalls and just a great group of people that said, hey, come on back. And I came back to my roots at Stalls, heat printing, DTF, and one of the reasons is Fulfill Engine. And I'm glad to be with you here today, Dave.
Excellent. Yeah, Frank, I know we had such a good time out there. And with how kind of well connected you are in the industry and in tune to really truly understanding what decorators are looking for. So let's dive right in. For those of our audience that weren't able to make it to the DTF Expo down in Mesa, what was your initial kind of reaction or your vibe that you got from the show? I know there was a pretty good energy about it. We talked to quite a few decorators over the span of the 2 days of the show. What did you think?
I thought setup is always great because you see everybody that you're normally setting up with at shows. You're like, hey, how's the family? How's work? How's travel? How was your plane trip? And then, that night there was an exhibitor and speaker happy hour. So it was nice to catch up with the group that you're always traveling with, it seems. Day one was, I think, very busy, probably the busiest. That morning session, I feel like at our booth, Dave, it was just the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
It was nonstop. And I think a little after lunchtime, it lulled. And then, people trickled in till it ended at 5 o'clock. Day two was from 10 to 3, a little shorter that day. And it was just, hit or miss all day. There were quite a few classes going on, education sessions, which you were one of the teachers for that. And all around, it was a good show that was specifically for direct-to-film, that industry, whether it be those that sell transfers, those that sell equipment, those that sell other heat-applied items or softwares. But it was nice to just have a collective group dedicated to direct-to-film. And this was the second show. Last year was the inaugural, and this was the second annual.
Yeah, I know compared to kind of the larger shows or the Impressions Expos and talking with decorators there, and I'm sure you would agree too, like some of those larger shows can be very overwhelming, right? With so many different things, so many vendors, where like it does take you 3 full days to walk the entire trade show floor. And then just to absorb all of the latest and greatest innovations or talk to your supplier or whatever, like you miss out on a lot of that education. I think that was it. Cause that there was education going on throughout the event. And so I know my education session when we were talking about maximizing direct to film for trends or print on demand, right, was fairly well attended, even though maybe the trade show floor wasn't as bustling as it was that first day. But it's so good to see those decorators come out to these smaller events. And that's kind of the same as like the Decorated Apparel Expo or the Impressions Expo. You could still really, truly have these meaningful conversations with decorators, kind of build that little bit of sense of community that we always have, right? Without a lot of the noise of these larger trade shows. Now, the larger trade shows, I do love the hustle and bustle of them and seeing just these expansive floors. But I thought they did a really good job for this expo for bringing the education in, right? Because that's such a big part of like a conference or an expo is not just seeing the technology, but learning how to apply it, right? And then, have those meaningful conversations with decorators. For you, I know you talked to a ton of different decorators throughout the entire show. Who kind of was there? Was it a mix of new decorators? Was it growing shops? Was it these commercial shops? Like, what was your kind of? I know there was a wide swatch of different decorators, but who did you find yourself talking to more often?
I think about 60% of the attendees that I spoke with were small to medium-sized shops. Some that were brand new. I know 2 individuals that I talked to They came from another industry and they were wanting to add direct-to-film or heat-applied graphics to what their current offering was. They had nothing, they were there to learn. There was a lot of local, in the greater Phoenix area, a lot of local attendees, and a few enterprise size accounts that knew what they wanted. They were coming there maybe to get a show special or to get one-on-one interaction with a distributor or someone that can, give them a more intimate conversation. And to your point a while ago, Dave, at the big shows, we're used to crowds. You sit behind a heat press to do a demonstration and you don't really have that individual one-on-one talk with everybody. It's kind of, hey, watch and let me wow you. But with this show, it was a little more intimate. You could have those direct one-on-one conversations, learn more about people's business and where they were at in that business and how stalls could help them along the way, wherever that journey is for them right now.
Yeah, with all the tools that are available in the toolbox. But I know that was like my big takeaway. And just like you said, there was a lot of decorators who maybe, used to be screen printers and had to leave for, leave the industry for a myriad of different reasons, but kind of coming back around, that boomerang back into the industry, right? Where it's, oh my God, so much has changed. And I mean, even just, I've been in the decorating apparel industry for 15 years, right? And you said over 20 years of experience for you. Like so much has changed in that time frame, from just the evolution of direct to garment to the evolution of direct to film and all this stuff really changing in the past maybe 3 years. So as they hear this buzz of, oh, what is this direct to film? I need to learn more. And I think that was like, pretty much anything and any, one you wanted to learn or meet about direct to film was there at this conference. And even those education sessions, I listened to a lot of questions, but kind of what was your take on a lot of the questions that decorators had, whether it be the application of direct to film, the ease of use, the wash longevity, even things like we talked, like I know I kept talking about post pressing, right? Like that seemed to be such a large conversation. People were talking about efficiency gains or automation or just the versatility of a direct to film transfer. Out of those, is there anything that you would say was like a very common theme the entire time?
2 points would be, the first one was like, hey, I've heard of stalls. I know stalls. What are you guys selling today? And I would say, well, we have, direct to film transfers. We call them Ultracolor Max, best in the industry. We have the Hottronics. You had the auto clam on the pedestal, and we had the 360 IQ in the booth. And then we had the patches and emblems. I even said, hey, everything's for sale here. We can help you anywhere we can. Even I might be for sale. I can come to your shop and help you. So that was one of the points, they were kind of, what do you offer? Because I think a lot of people only offer specific things, but Stalls offers everything. The second thing would be, like you mentioned, they were so shocked about you didn't have to post press Ultracolor Max. And they felt uncomfortable. They were like, wait a minute. You sure I'm doing this right? And I said, yes, it's a hot pill, a true hot pill, and you don't have to hit it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that seemed to be a lot of the common theme and comments that I received.
I have one of the shirts here that I brought back with us. So this was the graphic that we were pressing up on that auto clam while we were there. But like, and this kind of talks to, it was a great talking point, and I love the creative team that put this graphic together, because it talks about so many things that decorators are concerned with, right? When we talk about efficiency with direct to film, adding any extra steps, it does impact the profitability at the end of the day, right? Yeah. So being able to just do a quick, simple application, 15 seconds, 12 to 15 seconds even, with a hot peel. And when you talk about that dry heat, I love that. I love that dry climate where I mean, we're in some places, even here in Ohio, right? When you go to press the t-shirts, and boom, steam is billowing out of them, right? Where there was zero steam out in Arizona. What I would give as a decorator myself to just not have to fight with that moisture. But
and I will give it up to Lane 7. That's a great blank. Yes. Everybody loved that blank. And yes, Stalls is one of the softest transfers when it comes to Ultracolor Max. And we got a lot of people say, wow, that is so soft. But, do yourself a favor and put some cavities in your transfer so it's not a big box. Even plastisol ink, a big box, is going to feel like it's bulletproof. So I tell people, and I had that conversation many times at the show, it's like, a lot of it's in the artwork. And Dave, you could have even half-toned that. I know with your expertise, and you probably could have made it feel even softer. Am I correct?
Yeah, and I that is like that's that topic of like, uh DTF feels plasticky. And I see Javed here asking, joining us in the chat, what is DTF? So DTF that we're talking about here today is a direct to film transfer, really truly changing the industry in terms of the ability to produce one-offs, digital, no color limitations, a great hand feel when used correctly on garments, but even still compared to, certain other transfer types, like it does have a great feel, and the small detail minimums of what you could get, the half toning, like you mentioned, Frank, is all possible with direct to film. So there is a ton of advantages that we see heat printers and apparel decorators of all sizes using it. But Javed, thanks. Great question there. As we always love our live audience, if you have any questions and you're listening along, feel free to drop them down as a comment wherever you're listening here. And we would love to answer questions. Of course, right here at Stalls, we are built to help your business succeed. And just asking those questions really allows experts like Frank to be able to provide some insights to you right now, right away, even not having to go to a show. But yeah, when you're talking about this graphic, right, like knocking it out, so many people complain like, yeah, it feels like a sticker on my shirt, right? Well, exactly like you said, one of my favorite shirts, and I tell this story quite often, is like, it is a local music venue here in town. Absolutely love it. It's legendary, right? World renowned, let's say. But their t-shirt, when I got it back, 10 years ago, was a thick plastisol screen print. And the shape of Ohio on the back is a solid print about 15 inches wide. And that thing does feel like you're wearing a bulletproof vest, right? So if you're not sublimating or not doing, let's say, water-based or discharge screen printing, there is always a hand feel on the garment, right? So just using some artwork best practices, just using the shirt as a negative space. Now, I went to art school. I've been designing t-shirts for well over 15 years, and it's something that you used to have to do to get that extra color, because I wasn't about to pay for another color of ink, so I'm going to use black in the design as the shirt color, right? But just doing things like that really does truly help you get a hand feel that I don't think anybody would feel this shirt and think anything of it, right? It's not uncomfortable to wear. This is, I think, a 4.3 ounce shirt, so it's fairly lightweight, right? I keep holding it off to the side for those of you watching along with us.
We do have a question, Dave, on Facebook.
Yeah, it does look absolutely incredible, and you can see it stretches with the garment. This garment necessarily doesn't stretch all too much, but you can see it stretches and rebounds with the garment and looks phenomenal, right? So this is just knocking out anything that would be black to this garment, and even with the mineral dye or that wash from Lane 7, it looks great. And yeah, you're right. There is one in here from
your halftone.
Yeah, about half toning. So over on Instagram, Sebas asks, how do you half tone? So there is a video over on our Transfer Express YouTube page that talks about half toning specifically for direct to film, but that you don't have to be a Photoshop pro, right? That is a tutorial that walks you through Photoshop, a lot of custom controls with bit mapping. Having worked in Photoshop for 15 years, essentially myself, I wanted to break it down in the simplest terms. So even if you're not a Photoshop pro, you could absolutely get that half toning. But essentially what that's going to do is create these little tiny dots that are going to make a value, right? Your eye is going to mix it together. It's been known in screen printing for a very, very long time. Think of like those old comic books that you used to get, right? Where like you could see the dots, but the dots overlaid kind of make up a color to your eyes, right? Well, there is a way that we're able to do that with Photoshop. Now, there is also AI Assist, which is brand new from Transfer Express. If you haven't checked that out, it takes any soft edges, right? Because one of the limitations of direct to film, when we talk about direct to film as a printing method, is that it does have to have a hard defined edge, right? I think you have a great example right behind you in that Stampinator shirt, right? Where you do have the ability to get that fade out to the garment edge by essentially making small little tiny dots, right? So it fades out to the garment edge and still gives you that ability to have that aesthetic while still maintaining the defined edge of each one of those tiny little dots. So that's what halftoning is going to do. The AI assist at Transfer Express is kind of mind-blowing how it works, and it is powered by AI. It's not only just going to resize your artwork, but it's actually going to resize your artwork by analyzing the detail and then essentially creating what it thinks is that, if this pixel next to me is green and this pixel's green, I'm not just going to stretch the pixels and make them bigger. I'm going to add exactly the same color green pixel in between them. So you have this sharpness, this resolution, right? But when we talk about that limitation of soft edges, before you would either have to go into Photoshop and correct it. And even depending on what selection you're doing, it could get frustrating because then you put it back into the system and it's another soft edge, right? And we don't want to modify your artwork to just cut the edges off. So now this AI assist actually gives you options, whether you do just want to cut it off, whether you want to maybe blend it with white, or it will even automatically halftone it with 2 different models. So you get a little bit more stylized halftone or a little bit more natural looking kind of blended halftone. Very similar to the shirt that Frank held up there. But that AI assist is completely free to use, and it allows you to truly order super high quality DTF, right? And especially when we're talking about the Ultra Color Max direct to film transfers from Stalls and Transfer Express. Again, even in the testing that we were doing, right? We're printing these shirts and people were live printing or live they were live printing at the show and amazed with the single step application and truly the hand feel of the garment. And I mean, I don't even want to say this one's really knocked out, right? There are some large areas of this, and we'll try to put a photo in the show notes if you're listening along on the replay here. But like there are some large elements, the little burst from the wizard's hand, even the text is pretty large coverage areas, but it feels absolutely incredible. My screen's mirrored, so I'm trying to see blindly what I'm feeling on this. But like, you can't really feel this print on here, right? It looks and feels so light, looks great, washes great, up to the industry standard, right? Of those 50 wash dry cycles. We covered a whole bunch in here, a lot to unpack. When we talk about not just artwork, the best practices, but then the application too, right? I know one thing, Frank, I joined you on the Shirt Show podcast, right? And like one of the big questions that we've been asked, in the weeks following that a lot is that post press step, right? And there's a video we have over on our Transfer Express YouTube page where we show some different techniques for post pressing. But at the end of the day, is the benefit even worth it? When you have a high quality DTF that does sink down into the fibers of the shirt and you see that garment texture show through, I personally don't think it changes. We tried a whole bunch of different cover sheets. It doesn't change the hand feel. It doesn't affect durability at the end of the day. And even when you do wash testing, a couple washes in, it's even hard to see any difference in that post press versus just the initial press. Again, with a high quality direct to film transfer. Do you kind of see the same thing too? In talking with like decorators, especially in that commercial space, is that post press common, or is that just more of like a kind of hindrance to the efficiencies? Yeah.
When you're talking to a commercial account, it's about time for them. Time is money. How fast can we get this job completed? And if I have to heat something and say it's a cold pill and I have to wait for it to cool down, or I have to pull it off, stack it so it can cool down and keep going, then I got to restack it. It just takes more time. So it's almost double the time. Then to pill it and to press it, they say no. I jokingly, Dave, I came from another company before I came back to Stalls, and that company chose, to go exclusive with a competitor in the industry. And I had to push this competitor, and it was so hard to sell because it was a cold pill, required a post press. And I would talk to Stalls customers and say, hey, would you consider using this? And they're like, and these are large commercial shops. They're saying, why would I go to a cold pill post a second press? when Stalls is a true hot pill and I only have to press it one time.
Yeah, and I will say like that those kind of commercial shops, right? There's a lot of lessons to be learned from those commercial shops that even small side hustles, at home entrepreneurs, or like the small businesses or small apparel decorators just getting started could really take advantage of. Because the one thing that's fixed for anybody, regardless if you're a small business or you're a commercial business, is time, right? Time always marches forward. I wish I could slow it down. The gray hairs, I'm sure wish we could slow it down a little bit, but that's something that like in your day, there's a fixed finite amount of time, and being able to be profitable, start to grow your business as a smaller business, right? Like that's where, I know when I just first started printing t-shirts, I had like my best month ever. Like, oh man, I was busy almost every single day printing shirts. This is awesome. And then at the end of the month, you look back and you're like, man, I didn't make any money, right? And like that's a mistake of mine that I always like to share, because I want to prevent others from doing it. It was so discouraging to be like, I thought I was doing great, and when I actually look back at my profitability, it wasn't there because I wasn't accounting for my time. So yeah, it's like
you have to appreciate Stalls, Dave. That Stalls has the foresight, and we don't take the credit. We just get to spread the good news. But our engineers and our guys in the lab, they're thinking about this stuff ahead. And how long have you said it since Stalls has had Ultra Color Max? It's always been a hot pill, right?
Yeah.
So they're thinking already light years down the road about how is this going to impact efficiency? How is this going to impact a production? And not only somebody that's doing it as a startup or a hobbyist, or somebody that's, a small to medium business, where sometimes as a small to medium business, you are stretched when it comes to payroll and overhead and time, and Stalls is thinking ahead for you.
Yeah. And when we talk about, those even not just time, but like the risks of investment into it too. And you mentioned the research and development department here. And yeah, those guys, every single time I talk to any of them here at Stalls, 90% of what they say goes right over my head. They are so knowledgeable about digital printing, and they do it day in and day out. And to bring Ultra Color Max to the market, to be that hot peel, that efficient application that truly does help decorators win more jobs, say yes to more jobs, and remain profitable with that time savings, right? But I know when we talk to a lot of decorators, and I know folks came to the show at the DTF Expo, like, I am here to buy a direct-to-film printer. And that's something that I know a lot of decorators consider. It might be one of the biggest myths of utilizing direct to film, is like, well, I need to have my own printer in-house. And we actually see a lot of shops, from commercial shops to smaller businesses. And even I heard from people at the expo who came to the show specifically to buy a printer, and then attended a few education sessions and was like, this is odd. Like, I came to buy a printer and people are discouraging me from buying a direct-to-film printer at the DTF Expo, which was like, I know it's a common theme, but it's that myth of like, you don't need, there's certain reasons why when it benefits a shop, but like for the vast majority of decorators, and that's one thing when we talk about that research and development department, right? That like the quality that these guys who have spent 20-25 years in digital printing, and understand color and understand the chemistry and science behind problems and troubleshooting, right? That like, I could go out and spend an unlimited amount of money, but it's that knowledge, it's that know-how, it's the maintenance, the inner workings of what these brilliant minds in the industry are able to accomplish, that like I would never be able to get in-house quality similar to that, right? And then the one thing too that I think I heard as like a theme was the future proofing, right? Like how far direct to film has come. And I know Stalls' direct to film has kind of been there for the past 3 years, right? Of essentially unchanged, and only these improvements, like the brand new inks that just came out just about 3 weeks ago. I think we talked about that on the podcast here. These cleaner, greener inks that don't have the formaldehyde or the glycol that is common in these inks, right? So a lot cleaner and then much brighter results, right? And this was developed by this research and development department. So I forgot what my question was going to be to you. Oh,
about equipment. I can talk on that if you'd like me to.
Yeah, absolutely. The equipment.
I see two areas when it comes to considering to buy equipment. And this is a true story. It was I was flying out February 14th. My wife and I were going to New Orleans for the weekend, and a customer sent me an email saying, hey, can you tell me what we spent last year in Ultra Color Max? And I know exactly what they're thinking. And I picked up the phone and said, hey, this is a conversation I think would be better had over the phone. Let me know, what are you guys thinking? Are you considering a machine? Is that where this is going? And they said, yes, we are. And I gave them the amount. And, I thought it was going to be a hard conversation, explaining to them why, at what point should they go into it, look into a machine, at what point. Right off the bat, she said, yep, no, we're not there yet. And I'm like, okay, where is your, point that you decide this? And she said, well, we're in such and such state. This is our, this is what we pay our minimum operators. And for an annual salary, no, we're spending way below that. And then I went a little further and I said, if you're going to think down this road, are you also considering the space? And she said, what do you mean the space? And I said, well, an average machine is going to be anywhere from, 6 foot wide to about 10 foot, 15 foot long. That space needs to have humidity control or climate control. Many areas like Phoenix, you're going to have to blow humidity into that place. In fact, there was a guy there still selling humidifiers. If you remember, he was blowing humidity into the showroom at the expo. That's the reason. Areas that have too much humidity, they're going to have dehumidifiers, so you have to climate control the area. Then beyond that, do you have somebody that has some technical savvy that can troubleshoot the machines when there's issues? And then do you have the backup parts? And we kind of jokingly say, if you have one machine, you have zero. If you have two machines, you have one. Because if you were around during the evolution of DTG, when it first started, we're in those days of DTF. It's just not there yet, in my opinion. So you're going to have repetition, two machines. So when one's down, you can keep production running and have two. And then, of course, your labor costs, all that's involved. That's the first half. I said there's two halves. The other half, Dave, you mentioned it, is future-proofing. I was at the DTF Expo, the inaugural, last year, and then I was there this year again. Already, there are drastic changes from what was there last year in equipment to what was there this year. This year, Epson's on the scene, Roland's on the scene. Last year, Mamaki had made its debut. But, and I'm still seeing a lot of China imported machines, and they're even updated, from last year, 4-color was the thing. Now they're 6-color and 9-color. And so what you have to appreciate about partnering with Stalls is always going to try to help future-proof. We just have to. Stalls has to always, like you said, Dave, we enhanced the colors 3 weeks ago. So that's, when you're looking at equipment, you need to consider both sides of, future-proofing and then the investment it takes to bring it in-house. I'm not saying that there's not a point that you shouldn't bring it in-house, but at least do your due diligence and make sure you're ready and prepared for that.
Yeah. And you mentioned like even the labor costs and stuff on it, but and that's something that like doesn't go into factoring the cost of operating. A lot of people say, oh, I look at the cost of the printer and how long it's going to take me to pay off. And yeah, that's discouraging. One of the shop coaches that I've spent a lot of time with says every investment in your business should be paid off in 18 months maximum, right? And when you look at possibly your printer that you invested in being obsolete in less than a year, right? Where it's like there is this boom and this evolution, I think you said too, of like where these printers are. So, but you look into
some of them won't do a lease over 5 years,
yeah,
because they know they're going to age out.
And yeah, and be able to, there's no benefit to using them. There's something better that's going to be better quality. Quality, I know, talking to decorators is like the number one thing of concern. And that's what helps you stand out in crowded marketplaces, stand out in your niche. It's the quality and service that you could, give your customers. But when we talk about the cost of, printing DTF in-house, there are those hidden costs. Labor is one of them. Because yeah, it's the cost of the printer. Hey, I know the cost of adhesive. I know the cost of film. I know the cost of inks, whatever it might be, right? But then when you start to say, all right, well, I need climate control. I need the space. Real estate is more expensive than ever, right? I need the exhaust. So I need to get any glycol and fumes because it's not widely available to have clean green inks like we have here. That
And then software. If you have two machines, the same brand, same colors, same film, sometimes you will still get this two different outputs of
vastly different. Yeah. And the one thing that I've talked to a lot of decorators who have invested in direct to film, they never even considered the cost of energy of running a conveyor dryer, especially coming from just running a heat press.
Yeah.
Now running a conveyor dryer. Now screen printers know the cost of running a conveyor dryer. Yeah. So like, but adding that into a business is something that like is that shock. So the cost of what it actually costs you to produce in-house, let alone the print heads that you're going to need to replace, the maintenance and the labor costs of taking your time away from doing what you do best. And a lot of those small single person shops or 2 or 3 employees, having the printer go down becomes their problem. And now I'm not able to sell. I'm not able to do my marketing. I'm not able to send my emails because my business is at a standstill. And like that, I know is scary. And I've heard those horror stories from decorators that like, my I feel having been a decorator myself. So it's just like, I want I want to build success and always reduce the risk. So until you get to that point where it's like, I need this print rolling off and needs to leave right here today. But the average turn time still, even for print on demand, is at 3 to 5 days. But I know we're running out of time a little bit here.
I know
there's still
this is
some questions
a
I
lot
want to
about
get to.
DTF, Dave, but you know what was amazing? I was many times running the Hotronix 360 IQ, and we were doing patches and emblems. And many people didn't realize stalls offered patches and emblems, whether it be, PVC, leather, faux suede, to flex style, flex broidery. They were shocked. They're like, wait a minute, I can get this from stalls? And I said, yeah, we just lowered our minimums to 12 on most of these items as well. And they're like, what? 12?
That's wild. Yep.
There were so many people that, they might have already had a press, our Hotronix 360, but they still, I don't know why they didn't realize the patches and emblems. And they're like, can you do me a hat? Because I want to take that back home and put in my showroom.
Yep.
That was so exciting, to see, their eyes light up, because, our marketing team, they gave us a lot of samples to give away. And it was nice to see people smile and take something home, that had Phoenix or Arizona or something Sedona on it.
Yeah, those were awesome. And I will say, I was kind of shocked with how much dimensional stuff was there. It wasn't just a DTF Expo. It was almost like a heat applied products, a heat printing expo almost, right? Because there was some chenille. I saw some leathers. So yeah, while it was a lot of DTF, but there also was quite a bit of those dimensional finishes that we see trending and so popular and relevant with your customers here today in 2025. So that was really great. The one thing you mentioned too, kind of at the beginning, was a lot of software companies, right? The one thing that I think I was kind of floored by is that I didn't realize there were so many gang sheet builder companies out there and available, and a lot of them have the similar solutions. And like, some of the stuff is really cool, but of course, like, there's that hot debate with like, are gang sheets actually worth it, and do they benefit the decorator or the person selling you that 300 square inches or whatever of DTF?
Yeah, we want to sell more DTF, right? That's if you're a DTF printer, and what better way is to say, hey, let me sell you a gang sheet full of DTF.
It's the Costco model.
And there is sometimes some money savings in having, uploading a gang sheet, and maybe it's the benefit of, I can upload multiple items, because we do offer that at Transfer Express. So we understand there's a time for savings, but at stalls, you can just upload your logo and then tell the quantity that you want, and then we ship them to you. Yeah. And if your cart is $300 or more, this is another good plug that I love. And we were showing people this at the show. Stalls has Easy Rip, where you don't have to sit there with scissors and cut it apart. Yeah. It'll come perforated and you just rip it apart. Yeah. I love that we offer that.
Yeah. And I love having it at the show because, we don't need scissors. You don't need to roll. You don't need a big table to roll out.
How long did it take us to cut those apart at the activation afterward? 2 hours?
A little while. It did take some while to cut through that. But that's a good thing you bring up there, Frank, and something that I don't know if I've ever necessarily considered is like, when people are like, well, I save so much money with gang sheets. Number one, I always kind of point out especially with direct to film, like, you're paying for when it's like, oh, it's 3 cents a square inch, you're still paying 3 cents a square inch. That factors in the space that you're not using. So all of the blank carrier you're still paying for, but that added expense of the time, right? I think time is just, we've talked about it 4 times now, I think, on this podcast, but like the time of, number one, arranging the gang sheet yourself, which is maybe why those software companies are looking to automate that. But then regardless of how tight and compact that you make it, that causes more problems of how tight and compact and how precise you have to be when cutting it out then too. So like that time savings, labor costs way more per minute than DTF costs per square inch. So like that's something that is another thing when you look at the success and health of your business as a decorator. At the end of the day, your cost of goods was this, but your labor cost that maybe you are not accounting for.
And that's the reason they're selling those cutters now. You've seen a lot of those cutters, the bed.
Quite a few of them, but
why
again,
are they selling those?
Another investment into essentially that capital expense of purchasing equipment that now you have to learn how to use and you learn how to do it. When so many decorators out there that I talk to are, I sell. That's my superpower. I design. That's my superpower. I'm a great marketer. That's my superpower, right? Like every decorator is different, right? And I think even between us having been decorators, like we are vastly different in where your strengths and weaknesses lie and what benefit you truly provide to your business. And even talking to like promotional products distributors who essentially just say, I'm going to focus on selling this. I actually don't want to produce anything either, right? So, and I know when we talk about software and print on demand, that's a lot of what my class was about, right? So
yeah, I was going to ask, how was your class?
It was fantastic. And that was the basis of it, of really utilizing direct to film where it wins, right? And that's these minimal pieces, these small orders supporting print on demand in e-commerce. I was at the last shop that I was working at, we did kind of like, that was the ground floor of print on demand, right? And I saw how it's evolved over the past 11, 12 years. Man, it's been a while, but right? But like how far that it's truly evolved, and seeing how direct to film supports it. You don't need that, $20,000-$30,000 printer to print direct to garment, because that's direct to garment is what made print on demand viable. But it was this huge expense, and now you could do it, meaning that 3 to 5 day turnaround time. That's normal, of course, not for Amazon. If Amazon took 3 to 5 days, we're rioting, right? But custom printed apparel in 3 to 5 days still kind of feels like magic, right? And you're able to do that with direct to film transfer. So the class was a lot about maximizing that power of direct to film, leveraging automation, leveraging online stores, not just for brands or regular e-commerce, but leveraging them for schools, your local community, the restaurateur, or the construction company that says like, we're done buying merch that's just going to end up in the landfill. Like it's stuff that like, I'm going to buy all these t-shirts, and everybody can't agree on what t-shirt they want to wear, whether it's long sleeve or short sleeve, or no, I hate those ones that feel boxy, or I want something fitted. Everybody has different preferences, and even adapting to trends as we see different trends in blank apparel. Like you don't have to make these huge investments into stocking the shelves with apparel to be able to sell on demand, when you could have it automatically sourced and it arrives to your facility only after somebody buys it. So it was definitely talking a lot about
Fulfill Engine.
Yes, I was just about to get it. You got it on your hat there. I know you're ready.
That's my favorite.
Always ready to talk Fulfill Engine. But a lot of that is empowered through the Fulfill Engine software. So and just kind of showing that how decorators of any size could really compete with some of these huge national brands by just using software and automation. And that's where we see this future of I think the print industry really kind of moving. And now bulk printing, of course, isn't going anywhere. And I believe you were at the Print on Demand conference just a couple weeks ago, right? So, or a month ago now at this point, and hearing from so many people in the industry who say like, bulk printing isn't going away. But then you talk to decorators, and I'm sure you have talked to a lot of decorators recently who say like, oh yeah, the bulk work isn't going away, but there is less of it. Or we hear a lot more about, hey, do you offer online stores? Is that kind of the pulse of what you've heard on the industry too?
There's a lot of decorators that I have visited, years ago that were strictly bulk screen print, bulk embroidery. And now I revisit them and they have a little section in there now for print on demand. And I'm like, whoa, it has been a while. Why'd you change? And they said, people are demanding this.
Their customers are demanding that.
I have to offer it. It's like, if I don't evolve, I'll be Blockbuster. I'll be Radio Shack,
Yeah, it's the Blockbuster versus kind of Netflix, right? It's the on-demand. We're so used to Amazon. I know the pandemic truly changed customer buying behavior to feel much more comfortable shopping online for things like apparel or even like electronics, where like that was typically like, I want to go see it in person. I want to touch and feel it before I buy it. But when we were all forced to buy online, that kind of purchase anxiety was reduced. So I think we see so many customers of Decorators really asking, hey, do you guys do online stores? And Fulfill Engine allows you to easily say yes to that, whether you're producing in-house or producing out of house. It also helps you expand your capabilities. So maybe you just have a heat press in your shop or at home, but you want to offer embroidery or laser engraving, UV DTF, like the UV printing that essentially makes stickers, high quality, dishwasher safe, even like heat resistant stickers, right? That like you could put on it looks like it's UV printed, right? And it looks fantastic. You had that water bottle, didn't you? That had some UV DTF on it. So yeah, UV printed and UV DTF. So you see like, it looks phenomenal. I'm sure that thing's been through the dishwasher already, but you have that durable application that like, you don't need the equipment. You don't even need to pay for it until the item sells, right? And so like, it is this really, truly scalable method for decorators of all sizes to take advantage of print on demand, whether you want to do it in-house or not. I'll mention the last shop that I worked at started doing print on demand, but didn't want it. They're a commercial contract bulk screen printing shop, right? Something like 24 heads of embroidery, a couple autos, more than a couple autos, but they're set up for bulk work. They don't want to staff for print on demand, but they were getting asked by customers, hey, do you guys do online stores? And so they just use it like a distributor would, even though they produce in-house, because they don't want the complexities of hiring somebody to manage all of that, investing in new equipment. So really, regardless of how you want to run your business, Fulfill Engine really kind of sets you up for a scalable future, which is what that session was really about. But we touched on one thing there, and I want to ask you about, Frank, how important is the heat press in all of this, right? Because regardless if you have equipment, regardless of what you're doing, direct to film does need a heat press if you're producing in-house. And what are some of those advantages that you could get with a quality heat press, and what really should you avoid that might hurt your quality or hurt your washability or hurt your reputation as a decorator with maybe a inferior quality heat press?
Well, one example, while we were at the show, I was talking with a customer. No, it was actually one of the exhibitors, and he was at another booth looking at one of their new heat presses, and he said he bumped it and it almost went down on his hand. So, when it comes to quality, I would definitely make sure it is UL listed. And, with stalls and any of the heat applied graphics or transfers, patches and emblems, it's all about a recipe of time, temperature, and pressure. So you need a heat press that's going to provide that for you. Adequate pressure, adequate temperature, and hopefully, time that is, in a lot of the models that we have, they'll pop up on themselves, the pneumatics or the auto clam and the auto cap. Those just make it more efficient. But that's what I would look for. Many of those out there, and I talked to a few people, they said, we have an older one. We know it has a hot spot on the left side, so we stay off that left side. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you know that, because that would be terrible if you didn't know that and the customer brought it back and it's waving at you.
Yeah.
So you just, there's times I think, yes, you can cut costs. Your heat press is not one of those.
Yeah.
We know on Amazon, they're selling, a $200 China. Hopefully it doesn't go up in flames. I've heard horror stories of that happening. But you do get what you pay for. Buy the best. And was that not evident? How many other booths had Hottronics at the DTF Expo?
I think I counted 13 on the floor using, or 13 different Hotronics presses on the floor, not including the 2 that we had, of course, in our stalls booth. And there was probably 20 or 25 total booths. Like, it was very clear and dominant on the floor how, especially the brands wanting to showcase longevity or quality in their machinery or their software or whatever they were using, right? Like, that was like, we're going to choose Hotronics. So you didn't see too many of the other brands on the floor, which was, it was.
And I was shocked to see the pneumatic presses. There was quite a few that, it being a smaller show, they're like, how can I get something in and out quick? But, we had a dual air fusion there. We had a single air fusion there, and I was like, wow.
It's the people who just want that automatic 2-button press. I got to say, I love the auto clam, but in those higher capacity commercial environments, the dual air fusion or even a single air fusion, it can't be beat, right? In terms of like the cost of the machine, the reliability, and the efficiencies you get with it. I love the Pro Place. I'm wearing our Pro Place sweater, right? I can't turn around because I'm
There's a halftone.
I'm gonna pull my headphones out if I spin all the way around in my chair. But the Pro Place IQ, when we talk about those efficiencies, the time savings, right? When you're seeing the shoulder savings and the misprints, right? So like reducing the misprints, aligning the logo to the light, being able to easily hire anybody, not skilled labor, to be able to come in and essentially start nailing those left chest placements or center chest placements, avoid the belly prints, right? All you have to learn is how to load a shirt onto that lower platen. And that's the training, right? So and that's one thing that, like, even I joked about it, that maybe I should bring some in to show off to just maybe one of the YouTube videos, like, look how far, when Dave says he's made these mistakes, oh, he has, because I just saw one in my closet the other day. I did a left chest that's like up here. It was one of the first shirts I ever printed up here, right? And so like learning those placement techniques are usually something that comes with time. So being able to essentially be ready to run, and not, especially when we're talking on-demand printing, you're not doing a big bulk run anymore. They're little one pieces here or there that it gets confusing. Oh man, what graphics going on this black shirt? Or is this a center chest or a left chest? It is small, and it allows you to just reduce those misprints and really protect your profitability in there, right? So, man, we covered so much here today. If there was like one takeaway, one piece of advice that you could give to a decorator who's looking at utilizing direct-to-film or bringing direct-to-film into their arsenal of tools in their toolbox that they have, what's one piece of advice that you would leave somebody with a lasting takeaway and actionable that they could take, apply to their business to make their business better or more successful here in 2025?
Consider your reputation that you have now or the reputation you plan to build. And again, I go back to the heat press, making sure that you've invested in a good, solid heat press. It's going to give you consistent time, temperature, and pressure. And then partnering with somebody like Stalls or Stalls Transfer Express that can give you consistent direct-to-film transfers. We call it Ultra Color Max. I know there are others out there. Sometimes just your local DTF printer can provide you with some, but make sure that they're consistent. And there's going to be times that, sometimes people are like, I know it's CMYK, but I need a certain Pantone. Can you do it? Sometimes you land a big account and they expect that. And so sometimes those local printers, they don't have the capability to do that where Stalls or Transfer Express can. So that would be my lasting thought, Dave, is it's about your reputation. Yeah. Consider that, consider who you partner with, and build that.
Yeah. And that kind of goes into something that I used in my class too, right? When you talk about your reputation, in many years of marketing through print businesses or marketing my own brands, right? Like, you are going to find so much more success with keeping your customers happy and wowing them, because then they turn into your exponential marketing force. If just one of your customers tells 2 people, those 2 people become customers, those 2 people tell 2 more people, it's free, right? And it's so trustworthy, because if your friend comes up to you and goes, hey, this was a great experience, I loved working with this, and you get that testimonial from somebody that you trust, that's worth more than any amount of online ads that you could buy. Right. So
And
that's
you don't have to be
definitely
the cheapest out there as
no.
long as you have a good reputation. Stalls, I'll be the first to say, Stalls isn't the cheapest, but Stalls is reliable.
And quality. I know we like, even aside from wearing it on my shirt, I know a lot of people were saying, man, you guys know what you're doing. You're making some great transfers. How you doing it? Right. Which I don't know. You'd have to talk to one of our research and development guys, right? Because half of what they say goes right over my head. Before we wrap up here today, I do want to go into the chat. We got Craig, New Jersey, representing Hagen Home Goods. Saw Craig just a couple weeks ago at the Atlantic City Impression Show. Always great to catch up. And I know Craig was just showcasing on his Instagram the Easy Rip that we talked about just today. Yeah, saying it felt like cheating because it was too easy. Well, it's called Easy Rip, of course, but it does, right? When you come from having to cut or spend the time and labor to cut down those gang sheets to just be able to pop it at press, be able to put it on there, it almost feels way too easy. And then I saw this one in here. I had to reach down and grab my shirt. Scotty says, you might feel it feels pretty light because it says light the way. So he was referencing the shirts that we were showing off just a little bit ago.
Message.
Light the way. And yeah, it definitely feels very, very light on this. And you might see a few of these floating around there. I think we printed a couple hundred of them probably during the DTF Expo in the stalls.
Thank you, Lane 7.
And yes, Lane 7 on the blank. A nice shout out. I wish I knew this exact style number off the top of my head because it is this like very unique dye, and everyone is unique. So it was so cool to see how it like interacts with the print. And I know these textured shirts, we are looking at distressing in design, becoming a huge design trend. So yeah, something really awesome like that. And yeah, then Craig follows up here with us. The amount of time saved. This is with Easy Rip. And the ease of alignment was amazing. So I know Craig does a lot of laser engraving and some really cool stuff over there. So, but that's just, these are what the stories that I love to hear, right? I love to connect with decorators on site, love to connect with them online. If you're not already a member over on the Heat Press for Profit Facebook page, get on over there because I am in there almost every single day being inspired by the cool stuff that people are doing, the innovative stuff, some of the layering that you see in there, or the mixed media, or the genius ways of applying even just a direct to film transfer to maybe a location that you weren't thinking about, or a product that I've never even considered putting it on. I know we saw some just a couple days ago, there was some cardboard, right? People making these boxes, kitting and putting things together for samples to win more customers. And that's all stuff that is from decorators just like you out there, that are listening and also contributing to this great community and joining in to help everybody. And my hat always goes off to those who are, working essentially. They're spending a lot of time on their business, and then they're also able to turn around and help reach a hand out to decorators because they feel so fortunate that somebody reached the hand out to help them when they were first getting started. So you have this great community in the apparel decorating industry. And so I can't thank you guys out there enough for helping other decorators out and just driving the whole industry forward. I also want to thank Frank for joining us here on the Heat Press for Profit podcast. Great conversation, and we had a great time out in there last week. And yeah, you mentioned it kind of right at the beginning of like the happy hour events, right? And even like the networking. So if you go to any shows, be sure to take part in the networking. You never know who you're going to meet or the knowledge that you're going to learn. I know at one of the networking events, I had a fantastic conversation with Dan from a print shop in Reno, right? Huge commercial print shop. And so being able to just kind of talk about his business, the challenges that he's overcome around over the years, and the successes and the cool stuff that they get to work on. I am always happy to nerd out about printing in any way you're going to put ink on a substrate, whether it be screen printed transfers, or which were also, I feel like, a hot topic at the Direct to Film Expo was, have you heard of screen printed transfers? And I use them for like the one color stuff to really save a lot of money. Do you guys have any of those? Like, why, yes, we do, right? But and it's that stuff that you'll pick up in the Facebook group anyway. But for everybody, for Frank, thank you so much for joining us here on the Heat Press for Profit podcast. Of course, all of these podcasts, all of the education at Stalls and Transfer Express is built to inspire new decorators or old decorators to learn and get better and drive their success here for 2025. Be sure to join that community over on the Heat Press for Profit Facebook group. And until next time, I'm going to say happy pressing. Frank, thank you so much again. And for those of you listening out there, it's absolutely incredible. And hope to see you soon at a show. So until then, happy pressing.